Hello, my name is David Webb, and this is a video for Dweebovision. I am a Scrabble grandmaster, and in this video I am going to play Scrabble while providing in-game commentary on my moves. Hopefully this will help to improve your game, and be fun to watch. The game has just started, so let's join the action. It's my opponent's go first. I've got the J, which is a good scoring tile, and on my rack I've got Jowl. It would be good to play off the J and the W, because those are the only two non-bingo-y tiles on my rack. I've also got Jew as a short JW word, and Jow. But I'd prefer not to keep the L, N, and the T, although they're all bingo-y tiles, the three of them together have a slight lack of synergy. The N and the T go well together, but the L and the N do not. Great, my opponent's changed, so I can play Jowl. I can't see any longer words which put the J on the double letter square. Well, Jeton does, but it's one of my priorities is to play off the W. This looks pretty good. I'm not sure if there is a 7 here, but there may well be an 8. I've got the ING ending. Noteling is not good. Can't see anything through the W. Or the O. Or the J. Jowl takes an S and a Y at the end of it. I'm checking in my mind to see if there is a 7 with this rack. I don't think there is. Through a D, I would have denoting. I'm just mentally running through the alphabet to see what other floaters would give me a bingo. I haven't seen any others, but I suspect there are a few. Tenoning, I think, is also good. Well, my opponent's taking a while over his move. Maybe he kept a blank last move when he changed, and is now close to a bingo. I've got the O for going underneath J for a parallel play to Jowl in row I. So I could play Gon, G-O-N, keeping E-I-N-T. That would be pretty good in terms of resolving the rack and scoring reasonably well. Well, my opponent's taken that spot. He has provided a floating P and a floating E. Do either of those give me a bingo? Well, I can't see anything through the P, which is the more likely. That's opening with a T. Now, what about the E? Well, close to negation. I would need an A for that. Okay, I can't see a bingo with this rack. I've now got, or I have got the G and the T for going underneath J-O. And I've also got the triple word square at H1 available. But for that, I would need to place my O in this spot. So I could play Ingot. 28 points, that's pretty good. Now a play down here would Well, I could play Eng. 23 points. I think I prefer Ingot. If I don't take this spot, it's quite a useful spot for my opponent, and it doesn't provide very much for my opponent, apart from floaters for bingos. I'm just pausing in case I had a good play in column 5, a double-double non-bingo. Do I have Neogene? Nope, I don't have enough E's. Okay, I don't think I do have a double-double. Well, lots of E's. I don't think I have a bingo with this rack, but I have a scoring tile with the M, and EME and MEE are both good. So I could play Team in row J, or I could play EME in row J, making Joe and T and M. If one of my E's was an I would have one time. I need to check the floaters in case I have an 8-letter bingo. I'm pretty sure I don't have a 7-letter bingo. So there's the L of jowl. Can't see anything there. And the N of ingot. Can't see anything there. So at the moment, EME and row J is my preferred option. Although I might prefer to play a slightly longer word for a higher score but a worse rack. Well, that's been scuppered by my opponent's play. 28 points for him. I don't have anything which goes on the end of jow. That is, I don't have an L or an S. So I don't think my opponent's play has provided any good spots for me. I can't play above ingot because I don't have anything to go above the G. Now, do I have a double-double in column 5? Don't think so. So, what to do? This is a tricky rack. Well, I could play me across here. I could play meat for an extra 4 points, but I think the T helps this rack. Yeah, 16 points. Great, I surely have a bingo now. I've drawn a blank and I've got a balanced rack. So if the blank was an S, what do I have? Well, nothing that's springing to mind. Renotes isn't good. So maybe there isn't one with an S. Through an O, I would have wrote non. I've blocked that going through the N of ingot with me. Well, I haven't seen a playable bingo yet. My opponent plays oil. So if the blank is a Y, do I have anything? No. So row L isn't available to me unless I can find a bingo with the blank as an S. Ah, well, estrone is good. But that doesn't play in row L, and it doesn't play in column 11. Does estrone have an anagram? Don't think so. Does it play anywhere else? No. Okay, so this is troublesome. I don't want to miss a bingo if there's one here. Well, I was thinking about rowent. I do. I have rowent gen in column 2. Well, that's good. It's not going to score very much. Is there something better? What would something better look like? Well, I guess a play in column 1, ending with an I. That's unlikely. So I don't think I will spend any more time. There may be another bingo in this spot which doesn't place the blank on the triple letter square. But I don't want to spend longer on this move. Rowent gen 64. Not a great pickup. The U and the V together lack synergy and are in any event bad tiles to have. Now I'm expecting my opponent to play in the top left. If he doesn't, well, nothing is springing to mind. Vor and UVA are both good. So I could play Vor in row L, making OU. But a very low score. But the rack leave of AI PR is quite nice. I can't see anywhere else for Vor or Uva. I'm looking in column 10 to see if I've got a play which puts the V on the triple letter square, 2 squares above the L of Jowl. Well, I've got Rival, but the rack lead from that isn't good. Now I've got a 60-point lead, but that's going to disappear if my opponent bingos. So I want to sort this rack out as soon as possible to hopefully try and get a second bingo before my opponent gets his first. 60 points is quite a dangerous lead to have early on in the game. Well, vulnerable rather than dangerous. I'm looking to see if I've got a 5-letter play beginning at L1. Okay, 36 points for my opponent. I think that's good, but I'm going to challenge. Yep, that's fine. So, my lead is now just 20 points. Varia is good, but that doesn't play under the O of oil, and it keeps the U. I could play Merva down here. Now the rack leave isn't quite as good as after UVA, but the score for this is 20 points, and the UVA score, or Vor score rather, 14. So, is the R worth 6 points to this rack? Or rack leave? I don't think so. Although there probably won't be a huge amount between them. Okay, I don't have a bingo, but I've got the Z for score, and this is balanced, and I've got no duplicates, and I've drawn the S, which is promising for a future bingo. If I could play Zig somewhere, then my rack leave would be really good. I've got Zel in column 10, ZEL. And I note that my S can go in front of me at J1 to make SME. So I would consider a non-bingo player using the S if it scored a lot. For example, if I could place the Z on the double letter square and reach the triple word square. Now, 26 points for my opponent. I could play... well, aqua takes an S and an E at the end, so do I have a 5-letter play ending in E or S? I've got 12 minutes left. Wow, this looks like there ought to be something there. I've got plays which keep the Z, like gapes. Well, that's 41 points. I probably ought to be considering this spot, despite it wrecking my rack leave. Pieces is good. Pieces, that's 65. That's a pretty good score. And the rack leave is okay. Just pausing in case I can get even more. It would be so good to place the Z on the double letter square, one square below where it is. So I could play gazes in this spot. No, I think that's the best there is. Not a good rack. But 65 points for pieces is pretty much the same as getting a bingo. So that's okay. I can play gaily at L1, making oi. That's going to score quite well. Do I have any 6-letter plays beginning with the Z? Not that I can see. The Y is my scoring tile, so are there any good premium squares for that? No, there aren't. Well, except, of course, it's not a premium square, but jowl takes a Y, so I could play gaily in column 11, making jowly. Great, I've got 2 spots for gaily. And there are quite a few tiles left in the bag, 39, and I've got 11 minutes on the clock, so it would be good to have a few moves where I don't spend a lot of time to avoid getting into time trouble at the end. Do I have any other plays which end with a Y? Not that I can see. 27 points for playing in row L. 36 for column 11. And the column 11 play will also stop my opponent playing from the Z of pieces across to the double word square. Now there's still 1 blank unplayed and 3 S's unplayed, which are the most bingo-y of tiles. There goes one of the S's for only 34 points, so my opponent may well have another S sitting on his rack. I note, however, that there are only 2 E's left. And the E is a very bingo-y tile. Gaily 36. Wow, well, I draw those 2 E's to go with the one I kept. Wow, 3 A's and 3 E's. There are no E's unseen, and there are only 2 A's unseen. Well, fortunately, I've got the F as a scoring tile, so I'm going to play through this. I'm sure I have several places I can play F double A. My triplicate E isn't the worst situation I can have. The E's become really bad when you have 4 of them. With 3 of them you can easily play through. 2 E's is no problem at all, and 3 E's is a slight encumbrance, but usually never any difficulty playing through. And because there are no E's unseen, there is no risk at all of having 4 or more E's. So where can I play F double A or FAE? I can play them in column 1, beside Row and Jen. 17 points or thereabouts. I'm wondering if I can play through the Z. Well, I could play phase, F-A-Z-E, keeping double A, double E. Not great. I can play F-double-A in column 9, making if, zar, and E-A. That looks much better. Another reason for playing quickly is that my opponent has got less time on his clock than I have. So if I play quickly, that puts time pressure on him. And he's about a bingo behind. And this board is not particularly bingo-y. Column 11 requires hooking jowl with an S or a Y. And if a 7-letter play ends with an S, it's got to hook O and I. Okay, 32 points, that's a good score for him. Burns 4 tiles, which is good for me. And I can play far down here for 26. I draw a U. There are now 7 vowels left out of 30. So this is another vowel drought game. But with me having vowels on my rack, so I don't really need to worry about the vowel preponderance. But I do need to try and keep scoring. I've only got a 76-point lead, so if my opponent bingos in row L, that lead goes. And I note that by his play of Coro, he has also opened up column 13. But if he plays in column 13, only an E goes next to the R, so he has to put his blank there or begin next to GO, which is going to be only a face value bingo. So that's not hugely dangerous. Now I could play Kegu in row A. 27 points, that's a good score. I've got no scoring tiles at all on my rack. My G could also go after ZA, but I don't have any other tiles I can play in column 10, so that's no good. I could play Agued in row L. The purpose of that would be to play off 5 tiles to expedite the end of the game. There are 23 tiles in the bag, so that would be emptying about a fifth of the bag in one fell swoop. And by playing 5 tiles, I'd be increasing my chances of drawing an S or a blank. On the downside, I would be opening up row M as a bingo lane, and I'd be opening up the triple word square at 01. But I don't think either of those are particularly dangerous, because as it stands, row L is a bingo lane and it's a high scoring one. So Agued would be taking that out. Only 15 points for my opponent, so I want to keep the score going. So these are my choices. I can play Agued here, 19 points. Not as many as I was hoping for. Or Kegu up here. 27, that's much better. Great, I draw an S and I draw one of the vowels. So 6 vowels left out of 25 tiles. I don't have a bingo with this rack, but I'm pretty close to one. The only floaters are the G and U of Kegu. I do have a scoring tile in the C, but that's also a bingo-y tile. I could play Secede in column 1, and Smee, that remains available. 42 points, that's tempting. My opponent only gets 19, which is good. Let me see what the board looks like after this. 6 points expedites the end of the game. I'm retaining a vowel, which is good. This scores 42 points, which is going to take me to 347. 111 points in the lead. And that's important because it means that even if my opponent does bingo, I've still got a comfortable lead. So I think this is a good play. I draw a couple of vowels, which is good. I don't draw the blank. That may well be on my opponent's rack. Looking at the remaining tiles, there are a lot of N's and T's left, which are bingo-y tiles, but when they're on your racks as duplicates and triplicates, they're less so. And there are no E's, as I've mentioned, so the remaining tiles are sort of bingo-y, but they're slightly unbalanced. But if my opponent does bingo, I should be able to score well with the X. I've got Varix on my rack. Can't see anywhere great to play that. In fact, there are no really good spots for my X at the moment. I could play Axe and Atch in column 3. Okay, well there goes a bingo, but only 69 points, which is fine. And only 3 tiles left, but my opponent could have a second bingo. There's only 1 vowel left, which is good. So I'm looking to play off 2 tiles. So I could play XU down here. I'm not sure if Toledin takes an E, but it certainly takes an S. So this obstructs row L as a bingo lane. It scores 20 points. If my opponent bingos, he wins, regardless of what I play. So I can't outscore him. If he doesn't bingo, I'm almost certainly going to win because I've got a 42-point lead. And this is going to give me a 62-point lead. There are plenty of bingo lanes on this board. Prior to XU there was row L, but there's also row M, N and O, and column 15 and column 14 parallel to Toledin, so I can't really close out all the bingo lanes. And I can't score enough to win if my opponent does bingo. Well, I can now see what he's got. He's got 7 out of these 8 tiles, so he may well have a bingo. But if he doesn't, I think the game is mine. But he may play off just 1 tile fishing for a bingo, but if he does that, I'll know exactly what he's got. My opponent's got just 3.5 minutes to find a win. In column 11 I've got Bravi and Bun, which is going to score quite well. I will have another go, even if my opponent does bingo. Actually, that would be 30 points. That would take me to 397. Well, I think this is going to be a close game, even if my opponent does bingo. The H is the only tile which scores more than 1 point. So any bingo by my opponent is going to struggle to get to 80 points. He's now got just 2.5 minutes left. I've got 7 minutes, so I'm not in any time trouble at all. Okay. He has played off 1 tile. I can see what he's got. AHNRST blank. So he can play anthers in column 15 and INN. Does he have a second bingo? Earthens is not good, so that can't play at 01. What about beginning any other play beginning with the E or the D? OH takes an S after it. Well, I'm struggling to see a bingo beginning with the D and the E, D or the E, but there may be one. So what if his blank was an A, an E, an I, tarnish, an O, or a U? I can't see anything which can play underneath OH. Bravi is no longer a good move. I certainly need to block the IN spot. None of my letters go after IN. Wow, that was a good play by my opponent. Heartens. He's got heartens. Does he have anything beginning with the N? I don't think so. Anthers, heartens. Oh, well, anthers starts pretty low. Gosh, how do I block this? So, I can play Lav. If he can't bingo, it doesn't matter how little I score. This surely stops column 15 bingos. But does he now have one in row N or row O? And is there another bingo lane I've overlooked? So, what about beginning with the D? If it begins with the D, well, I don't think I need to worry because I can't block both bingo lanes, and I know column 15 is a bingo lane, and Lav undoubtedly blocks it. So, let's find out if my opponent does have a bingo. He will win if he does have one. He's got 2 minutes to find it and play it. If he doesn't, I can play Bird in column 11, where I was thinking about playing Bravi. Yep, that's pretty good. So, pass to end the game. And a good win for my opponent. The final score, 375 to me, 415 to my opponent, a winning margin of 40 points. Let's see what I missed. So it was my opponent's go fast. He changed. I had this rack. I played Jowl. Jeton was available. I prefer to sacrifice 12 points because I think the rack leave ENT is 12 points better than LW. My opponent plays Pioi. Did I miss a bingo? No, I didn't, and Ingot was my play. My opponent played Wen, and this looked close to a bingo. J1 emote 21. What did I do here? I played me for 16, which I think is fine because it's only 5 points less than the higher scoring play, and I'm keeping 4 bingo-y tiles. My opponent played Oil, and now here. Oh gosh, Eastrone was playable at 11. Making Wentz. Okay, I didn't consider that positioning. Rowent Jen scored 64, but I also had Nanometer at F2. Okay, that would have been quite a cool move to spot. Two ways of spelling that, and entrecôte was also available, plus Oneriest at D1. Okay, going through the eye of ingot and making Smee. Petronel at A10. Yep, onto the L of Jowl. Teletrons at F10, going through the L and T of Jowl and Went, and a couple of others, so a whole bunch of bingos there. I struggled to find any, but did find Rowan Gen. My opponent played Brame. I had a horrid rack. And I played Merva for 20, which looks fine. Now, was Pies his best? Yep, I think it was. Not a good rack for my opponent. He gets 34 points though. And I played Gailey for 36. I could have played Aliyah for 34. Well, that's better from the vowel consonant point of view, but Aliyah opens up column 12 as a bingo lane, which Gailey doesn't, so Gailey is better. 32 points for my opponent. This is where I have all the A's and E's, and there are only 2 A's unseen. Keith for 33. Well, I prefer my play of Far for 26. 15 points for my opponent, but he's not very high scoring, but he is opening up a bingo lane in column 13. Now, this is where I played Kegu, and I could have got the same number of points by playing Cade, but keeping the G and the U. I think I prefer the D and 3 E's leave. Okay, still a long way from a bingo for my opponent. He plays CH, opening up a new lane in row M. I played Secede for 42, trying to outscore my opponent. And my opponent has Toladin, which is a really good spot from an unpromising rack. Now, this is where I played Zoo for about 20. I could have got 37 at M2, at 2M rather, for racks. Ah, running down. Yeah, that's quite nice, running down parallel to Secede, because it blocks both the bingo lanes in row N and row O. Ah, but it also empties the bag. Well, a tricky one. These pre-endgame positions are always very difficult to judge, even immediately after the game. You need software analysis like Quackle to get a definitive answer. But I think the Zoo has merited is taking out the Toladin's bingo lane in row L. So this is what my opponent had, and there's one in the bag. So if I had drained the bag with racks in column 2, this is what he would have been faced with. Well, let's see if he has any bingos. He has enchants in row O, which he didn't see. But that would have been blocked by racks. Okay, anyway, he plays in. This is the position I had. I can now see what my opponent's got. He's got Tarnished and Anthers and several others in column 15. And he's also got Enthralls at O1, which I didn't see. Well, I think the suggestions here are just based on score, not really taking account of blocking the opponent. So it's with bingos in more than one place, there's not very much you can do unless one of the lanes is an obscure bingo, and all you can do is hope that your opponent doesn't see it. So I blocked the bingos that I could see in column 15. I didn't see Enthralls, and my opponent did, and that was the only playable bingo. So well done to my opponent for spotting that, and a good comeback by him with 2 bingos in the last 3 moves, and quite a close game. So plenty to consider there, and I think the pre-end game is probably worth thinking about because it's just so not obvious as to what the best move is. And I'm talking about the move when I played XU, leaving 1 in the bag, and an alternative play was racks in column 2 parallel to succeed, which drains the bag, and there are pros and cons of draining the bag and leaving one in the bag, and there are also score considerations you need to take into account. So quite an interesting pre-end game. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and got something out of it. My name is David Webb, and this has been a video for Dweebovision.